G'day folks, Luke Fitzpatrick here from Fish That Snag. Thank you so much for watching my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about jig head weights. But before we get to that, so let's start talking specifically about jig head weights. One of the most common questions we get asked at Camping World and Complete Angler in Maryborough, especially by anglers who are wanting to try fishing with soft plastics for the first time, is what size jig head should they buy or match to their soft plastic? Now, unfortunately, there's no right or wrong answer because there's a couple of considerations you need to make when you're out on the water at that specific time that'll really guide you to which jig head to use or which jig head weight to use. For myself, I break it down to two things. Number one, water depth. Okay, so how far do I need to get my lure to sink so it's down near the bottom or in the strike zone where the fish are showing on my sounder? And number two is the speed of the water. The current flow of the water is different in every area. As a consequence, I carry quite a few jig heads with me, and if you're just starting out, you might want to purchase 2 or 3 different jig head weights to sort of give you the best chance of matching the correct weight when you go fishing with your soft plastics for the first time. So, water depth, number one. Let's say we've got 0 to 5 meters. All right, the water's fairly still, it's not moving a lot, and we're using a curl tail grub. Now, the good thing about those lures is the grub, the tail on the lure, moves with very little water movement. So to get that lure from the surface down to the bottom, still water, only 5 meters, you probably don't need a large jig head weight. I generally use a 1/4 ounce or a 3/8 ounce jig head weight. Let's say we're in 20 meters of water and the current's moving a little bit quicker. Locally in around Hervey Bay, maybe the artificial reef or an area such as that. So the current can move through there quite quickly, and it sort of goes from sort of 10 to 20 meters sort of depth as you move across that reef. That's the sort of situation where you might want to choose a 1/2 ounce to maybe a whole 1 ounce jig head to be able to get your lure down. The fine art of choosing the right jig head comes down to making sure that your lure is a natural presentation to the fish. If your jig head weight is far too heavy, so say you whack 2 ounces on and you're only fishing in say 2 meters of water and it's very, very still, that lure will hit the water and it will go poof, straight down with very little action showing whatsoever. You'll get to the bottom real quick, but it won't look natural. If you use say a 1/16 jig head in that scenario, you'll find that the jig head it'll hit the water and then it will take a long time to get down to the bottom. All right, so the fine art of choosing your jig head weight is to get that balance really perfect. You want it to be able to hit the surface and flutter down nicely using the right action, but still get to the bottom. Let's watch a real life example. I'm sitting in 5 meters of water and there's quite a current coming past the boat. Up until now I've been using a 1/4 ounce jig head and I've just upsized to a 3/8 jig head. What I'm waiting for now is two things. I want to feel a tap through the braided line to tell me the lure is on the bottom, and I'm also watching the line very closely. I want to see it go completely slack to let me know the lure is well and truly down. Once I see that, I wind the slack up and then jump the lure. Hop, hop, nice and steadily, and the lure rises in the water column and starts to fall again. Then I just wait. Take note that each time just before I hop the lure, I'm winding up the slack. The other thing to note is essentially what you do with the rod tip is what the lure is doing under the water. So slack up, hop hop, the lure goes up, then you just hold the line still and the lure will gently drift back down through the water column looking very natural. Watch for the slack in the line, wind it up, hop hop, and away it goes again. The beauty of the braid is that you're in constant contact with the lure at the other end, so you can feel every little bump and tap that happens. Now the last thing I want you to pay attention to is when the strike happens. Up with the slack, hop hop hop, so the lure has gone up and it's now gently wafting back down through the water column until it nestles on the bottom. I then go to wind up the slack, and there's resistance there, and the fish is on. 90% of the time the fish will strike as the lure is dropping in the water column, so it's falling back to the bottom, or when you've let it rest on the bottom for a brief second or two, and then you go to take up the slack and you can feel them there. Okay folks, that's enough talking. Let's get back to a little bit of the fishing action from the other day before we close out this video. We're all done folks. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed it and got something out of it, please hit the like button and remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just as a reminder, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. As always, take care and I really do hope to see you out on the water one day.